Hello, my little cherubs. It is October 7th, 2020. I am here to do the recap for today's MST class. I can't believe we are already 1/8 of the way through the school year. You get 8 notices a year sent home, and the first one is due this week. So that means we are 1/8 of the way through the year. Wow, time is flying. So what we had to do today was, if you go to classwork, don't forget to always do your daily attendance question, which is now opened October 7th. Whether you are in school or not, please answer this question. There's information in there that's going to help me help you. And then we're going to go down. Just remember that you have resources here, and within these resources, at the very bottom is how to take a screenshot. This video is excellent if you missed the day that I showed you how to do that. It's an excellent video. Then, the place where I always put our recap videos. Our welcome and overview is our Unit 1. So we are still in Unit 1. And if I go down to today, it is the 4th time we are meeting live. So we are on day 4. If you look at the agenda carefully, move this up a little, and I'm going to zoom in a little, you will see that number 1, complete the October 7th question of the day. Number 2, open the MST skills and highlight the ones that you are currently comfortable with. This first quarter is a little bit different in that most of the first quarter grade is based on skills that you are comfortable with, as opposed to learning some type of task and being able to apply that task to something else. Everything we do is about thinking, trying to think about a situation and how it applies someplace else. So that will always stay here. Going to sum up the Pringles challenge. Going to take a look back at the Google Sheets to analyze the data and more practice with the metric system. Let me go to number 2 for a second on here. Number 2 on here is, if you go all the way down, you will see MST skills. And these are what we have already covered this year. So I'd like you, there's a copy for every one of you, to just go through. And under Google Suite, these are all the skills we have covered, such as editing and posting in Google Slides, adding images to Google Slides, completing a Google form, editing and posting in Jamboard, taking a screenshot. I'm going to go down to some of the others. Using a standard ruler, using a metric ruler. So what I'd like you to go through is just open this up, highlight the ones you are comfortable with, and please be as honest as possible, because this is going to allow me to help anyone who needs extra help in any of these areas. So after this, I'd like to go back to the Pringles challenge. One of the things in the Pringles challenge that you were expected to do was you had to answer questions, sorry about that, on here. So I looked at a few of the people who had question 7 done. Actually, I randomly chose a whole bunch of random number 7 answers. I just randomly picked a bunch of them and put them in a Google Doc so we could read them during class. So during class, I brought up that Google Doc on some of the things that were covered. And what I had everybody do is look through and see are there any patterns? Is there a word or two or a phrase that appears over and over? What word or words do you see coming up over and over in people's answers? So I just randomly chose a bunch of them. You know, for example, I learned that time and patience are key. Different people had different things. So what I don't want to give you the answer to this. I'd like you to go through this and look for words that seem to appear more than once. And that will give you an idea of what I was hoping you would find. So I just randomly picked a bunch. Next, I wanted to go over was that question, the last question 8, where the words friction, compression, and gravity were used. This top photo is one that I took at Timor Park over this summer. And I wanted to know how people were able to build this little part here without it caving in. So I'd like you to take a look at this picture, look at the shape of the arch on here, and see how it was built. And this also is another image that I took from the internet, and these arches are actually built before the surrounding parts are built. So everything up to this point is pretty easy. You stack, put the mortar or cement in between, and you're good. But why didn't these fall in? The same principle on why the Pringles chips didn't fall in is the same principle here. Why do these not fall in? It's unfortunate that we're not in school, because had we been here, I would have given each group some styrofoam pieces, and I would have said, cut and make an arch that can stand. Well, we can't practice that since we're not here, but you can at least think about it. So that was one of the parts of the classroom today. Another part, if I go back to day 4, was summarizing the Pringles challenge. And one of the ways to do that was to look at the Pringles sheet, the spreadsheet. Now, not everybody had the spreadsheet completely filled in. I'm trying to leave names off of this when I show it. The reason why I said please use numbers only and not put the centimeter in was so that you can do the average. So you had to find the length of the chip, the diameter of the chips, and then find the average of just the diameters. And it's a little bit difficult because if you're watching this video, it means you missed today's class. But the way these averages averaged out, the average of the averages is how we can make some of the conclusions about the Pringles chips. So just looking at the bottom, the length of the chip, we have 5.5 centimeters, 6 centimeters, 6.5, 6.4, 6.35, 6.5. Let's look at some of the diameters. 11.43, 11, 11, 11, 11.43, 11, 11, 11, 11.43, 11, 11, 10.8. The one up top is a little bit higher than some of the other people had gotten. So if you look at this, D2 and D3, cell D2 and D for diameter 2, D for diameter 3 on this person seemed to be a little bit higher than what other people were getting. So this might have either been a calculation error, a measurement error, I'm not really sure. So I'm going to make up numbers for a person down here and then show you how to find the average. So if I did this and I got 11 and then 11.2, whoops, I'm in the wrong spot. 11.2, 11 again. Let me fix this first one here, just say 11. And I wanted to find the average. I really do not have to do add, divide by 3. One of the nice things with Google Sheets is if we look over to the right side and we look up here, this is called Epsilon. When you hit it, you're going to see sum, average, count, max, min. It does a whole bunch of functions for you. So I'm going to look for the average, but how do I make this work on this sheet? You grab only the boxes you want to average. I do not want the length of the chip. I just want the average of 1, 2, 3 boxes. Do you see how those 3 boxes are highlighted now? So this is the 3 diameters that were taken. Then I'm going to go back up to the epsilon, hit the word average, and simply press the enter key. And it will give me the average of the chips. I'm going to know that I did this correctly, and I'm going to know whether you did it correctly. If I click in this box and I look way up on top, all the way to the left up here, it's going to tell me that it was an average put in there. If I look at one like this and I want to know if it was done with averages, I can look, oh, that was done with averages. So that's how I'm going to know if you actually use that function. There's a lot more to come on how to use Sheets in the future. But for now, that was what I wanted you to look at. Then I wanted you to look at these columns and say, hey, no matter what the circle looked like, what do we know? One of the questions that you also had on the Pringles challenge was whether or not wavy chips would work. So I'm going to bring up the Pringles challenge. I'm going to put it in present mode right there, because in present mode you get to see the whole thing. I'm going to back the camera out a little bit so we can see the whole screen. And I want you to take a look at the different circles that were here. So this is the one that I made last year. Notice the base and what it looks like. This is the one I made this year, and there's 2 videos which I've already posted. And I'm just going to screen through some of the images. And what do you notice about all of them? So they all have something very, very similar. And then as you go through these, look to see what's the same and what might be different. Now you notice there's going to be a whole bunch of blank pages. I did want to know your thoughts on whether you thought it would work with wavy chips. Would the Pringles challenge work with wavy chips? So all the way at the end, I did a second build this year. I know a few of you came in to see it. So when I get to the end of the slideshow, you're going to see my second build. Here is my second build. These were done with wavy chips. So here is my first picture. There's my can of wavy chips. And this particular tape measure has inches on the top, centimeters on the bottom. So I measured the diameter across the middle. I measured the diameter by looking at the height. And I measured the diameter on an angle. One of the other tasks you had to do was to measure the chip curvy side up and curvy side down. So I am only looking at these bottom numbers when I read the diameter of this chip. Again, looking at the bottom numbers only. It didn't make a difference for me whether I looked at the over or the curved, the concave or the convex part of the chip. Both ways gave me the exact same length. I wanted to prove that it was wavy, so here is a top view of the image showing the wavy chip, and I pretty much do have the same size base as I had on with the smooth one. I will tell you one thing. It took me a lot more tries with the wavy chips than it did with the regular Pringles. So for the most part, that's what we covered today. Don't want to give you the thinking questions, the analysis. I'd like you to take a thought about, think about that. Lastly, when we did the Got Skills for the contest, some people did really, really well, and some people had a really difficult time. The one thing that counts the most, or that I'm most interested in this class, is measuring in metric. So if you go back to our day 4, the last thing it talks about is reviewing how to measure in metric. So I'm going to go below that. This simply has the 2 videos. The first video under Math Antics, he actually goes through how to measure in both metric and in standard. The second video, he talks about the metric system, where it came from, why we use it, and especially in science. You can watch those on your own. Then down here, there are the directions. Let me go in a little bit more so you can see the directions. This is a really important skill for everybody who works in science and scientists, using the metric system. So I'd like you to redo the metric ruler. I have put a different version in the attachment. It does say take a screenshot, not a photo. So the metric ruler game is here. I did re-put the video of how to read the metric ruler here, and a metric Google Docs. Every one of you will have a copy of this. This is a screenshot that I took. Once I got a little bit over 2,000, I just got 3 X's because I wanted you to see what has to be in your screenshot. Your screenshot has to include the entire metric ruler, your score, and the 3 strikes, so I know that you played this version. The link is here. It says once you have scored 2,000 points, if you want to keep going, you can. Please take a screenshot, not a photo, and paste it below your name. There is a spot for your name, a spot for the screenshot. Underneath that, write down 2 things you learned by watching the 2 videos. So that is what you are expected to do here. Well, how do you get to the game? I have put the link directly to the game here for you. I'm going to come out a little so that you guys can see the whole game. This is a little bit different than the previous one. You're just going to hit play game, and then it's going to say 14 millimeters. So you want to make sure you go there, hit 1.2 centimeters. This time it's going to switch back and forth between centimeters and millimeters a lot. It also gives you the green arrow, the line, so you can see whether you're incorrect or correct right away. So it's a nice way to play this game. So once you get a score of 2,000, I will be comfortable enough that you know how to measure with centimeters. So I'm going to end this game now and get 3 X's. wait for another one to come up, get another X, and another X, another X. So then I would take my screenshot. That includes everything, including the bottom. So as far as where we are right now, we have just finished week 5. Basically, we are 5 weeks into this quarter, and I'm hoping all of you make up all the work that you've missed, and I'm looking forward to the next adventure with you. Bye. Take care.